Okay, this video I'm going to be showing how I train Midas to pressure and some desensitization. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm just getting Midas to yield his hindquarters away from me. Again, a lot of these exercises I got from Parelli and Clinton Anderson and Chris Cox. So with being a baby, I'm not going to make him do it fast or be kind of abrupt about it. He's very young, and I just want him to move, and I want this all to be a pleasant experience. So I just do a little tiny bit, and then I give him some love. And then, of course, I rub him with my stick there to make sure I can touch him everywhere. When I got Midas, he was untouched, and I had back surgery the week before he arrived. So it was quite the experience. I couldn't move very fast, but he really calmed down pretty easily. Here I'm just throwing the rope around him. I want to throw it all over him just because I don't want a horse that's spooky when I put saddlebags on. I don't want a horse to be spooky when I get on and my foot scrapes across his rump. I want to hobble train my horse at some point, so I will put it around his legs. Here I'm going around and I'm trying to teach him to yield to pressure, so he's a little confused here. He wants to follow me, but the pressure's coming from the other side. So that's kind of tricky for them. But I just made it easy. You always want your animal to be successful, set him up for success. As you notice, when I put the rope over his head for that, I make sure I put it over his head and I touch his ears, and I almost like I'm putting a bridle on him. I don't want him to be ear sensitive, so here I go. I'm gonna like pretend I'm putting on a bridle, and I'm gonna go right over those ears and make sure he's okay with that. And then I'm gonna gently pull that rope as gentle as I can and let him follow that feel. And this is a really good exercise for any horse, really. Just to make sure that they are going away from pressure, not into pressure. It is instinctual for them to go into pressure, and we have to teach them not to do something like that. Of course, whatever exercise you do on one side, you gotta switch sides. It's amazing how they really will react differently to each side. But Midas is a really good boy here. He's just hanging out, taking this all with stride, going around his legs, going around his body. You know, someday he'll have a girth on him. Someday, like I said, I'll have hobbles. And in fact, he has been tangled up in my electric fence twice now as an adult, and he was trained to be still for all that. So this training does pay off. So here I am on a different side. He's a little confused, but he figured it out. And I'm just being as slow and as deliberate as possible. He's just a baby. And I'm, making sure he understands that he's a good boy. I'm gonna brush those ears like I'm putting on a bridle. Put that rope on the other side. A lot of times horses, if I'm standing on the left and I put something on the right, it could spook them. And that's sometimes you'll see that happening when people break a horse. They do all the work from the left side, and then when they swing over, the horse freaks out because there's a leg on the right side. So you want to make sure that you do both sides equally. Here I am. I'm going to give him, I think here I'm going to do some head down exercises. Oh no, I'm going to desensitize. Okay, so I am not a roper, but who knows? I want my horses to be well trained for everything, because if anything ever happened to me, I want them to be placed easily with another home. So here I'm just gonna swing that rope until he stops moving, and there he stopped moving, so I stopped swinging it. I don't make a big deal out of it. I start swinging, he didn't move. I'm making sure he's okay with it, and then I stop. Easy as that. He's a good boy. I'll do this sometimes when I'm on the trail, so you can do this while you're on your horse. I mean, I definitely recommend doing it off your horse first to get that reaction before you do it on your horse. Here we go. We're gonna do it on the other side of him now, and then Actually, I was practicing this with my adult horses, and it's kind of hard to do it with your left hand. And I was like, I hit my horse like a couple times by accident. But if you do hit your horse, you just act like it's no big deal. You don't put any emotion into that, and they won't think it's a big deal either. When you put a lot of emotion into your training, your horses feed off of that, right? So you want to stay calm. Here I am just looping the rope over his head. I like to, now that I'm riding him, I like to be able to swing my reins over his head. You know, sometimes I'm weird when I trail ride and I'll lose my reins because I let him graze and I have to like swing those reins up and over his head. So I want to make sure he's all good with that. Let's see here, I'm just making him move a little bit. Instead of with the stick, I want him to listen to the swinging rope. So I have a different intention. When I was swinging it over his head, I was calm, I was nonchalant about it. But here I'm putting on a little pressure, and the way you put on the pressure and how they know the difference is I'm looking at him, I just have a different stance, right? Like, he can read my body language. Horses can read body language really well. You can't hide much from them. So I'm putting a little more intent in my swinging. Now I want him to yield his hindquarters, which he did. Here I want him to come to me. My other horse, Iggy, pulls back. And so if I were to pull on him like that, a little harder, of course, Iggy would flip over. So Midas, since I got him from scratch and any problems he has, I created them. Pulling back is one of the things I think is the most dangerous and hardest to train out. So here I'm just, again, putting pull pressure to have him drop his head. I know he's going to be a big horse, and so I want him to be able to drop his head when I am braiding him or putting my bridle on him. And so you just gently put pressure on that pull until they give you their head, and then you just release it. And of course, I'm giving him lots of scratches, and I'm repeating some of these exercises. Here I am, I forget what they call this, but I'm just having him bend his head to his side. So this is a great exercise to teach your horse. This is the emergency one rein stop. They have to give to that pressure. And so I'm putting my hand over him, and I'm very lightly just pulling that rope. And as soon as he gives me his head, I release it and I pet him and I tell him he's a good boy. And I'll tell you, now that he's an adult, he has a little bolting, not so much anymore, but when he was younger, he had a little bolting issue, and he was so good. I would just take that one rein and he would stop. I mean, he would get maybe 2 strides into his bolt and then he would stop. So this really does pay off. Here I'm putting the rope over him like they're reins, right? I want him to see stuff on the other side. I might even put it over his girth line because someday he's going to have a girth, so I want him to be okay with ropes around his girth line, on his back, over his neck. You want to think about all the things that you do when you have a horse, and you want to teach them that it's okay and that they can stand still for these things and not be scared. So here I am. I'm putting that rope around his girth area, so up over his back and under his belly, and that will teach him not to panic when I put a saddle on him when he's a little bit older. And here I'm going to put just a little bit of weight on him. Obviously he's way too young to ride, so I'm not even putting that much weight, but I'm just leaning on him, and I have my hand on the other side kind of flopping around like it's a leg.